All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Lasting Learning Podcast. You know, sometimes on this podcast, I introduce you to people as I am being introduced to people at the same time. Not this week. This week, I'm introducing you to somebody that I am calling my friend. Now, she might come on and she might completely discredit that and say, no, Dave. I am not your friend. Don't go there. But until she interrupts me and tells me not to, I am calling her my friend because she's amazing. She doesn't know it, but I admire her and look up to her way more than she knows. She is an amazing leader. She is an eternal optimist. She is funny as all get out. She is smart. She is witty. She is humble and yet so stinking smart. Today, I have my friend, and I'm saying it again, Robin Shrum joining us. Robin, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks, Dave. Happy to be here. And wow, that's a lot of really nice stuff you just said that I have to live up to.
Well, the only thing you have to live up to is the friend piece. The rest of it, whatever. You can come on and be arrogant and cocky, and everybody else can hate you when we're done. As long as I still like you, we're good to go. So
I own the friend thing.
Awesome.
I see you as a friend too. So thank you.
I will take that then. Then we can just end this conversation right now, because honestly, that's all I was after. I just wanted you to publicly acknowledge that so that I could have some street cred. I'm going to get a little badge made and wear it around. So no, honestly, I want to introduce you to some people out there that might not know you yet. Mm-hmm. Hopefully after we're done today, though, you're going to have a lot of people that are going to want to connect with you and follow your journey. But people that don't necessarily know you or where you are or what you do, can you introduce yourself real quick and just fill them in?
Sure. So I am Robin Shrum. I am an elementary school principal in Virginia, rural Virginia in the Shenandoah Valley. I have been an educator for this will be my 27th year. And I love what I do. I love the hard things. I love the easy things. I love learning. I'm a doctoral student right now, working on my dissertation. And I seem to just like to be busy and be in the mix. And that's why, Dave, I've met you, because I want to learn and grow. So that's kind of me in a nutshell.
All right. So 26 going on 27 years. Mm-hmm. That is a long time to be an educator and to still be a passionate educator, an educator that's still committed to growing and learning. So let's rewind on some of this. You haven't been an elementary principal for all 26, 27 years, nor have you always lived in Virginia in the beautiful Shenandoah Valley either. This has kind of been this pilgrimage to where you are, to this beautiful paradise that you now call home. Can you walk people through your journey?
Sure. So I started my career, I grew up mostly in Vermont, went to college actually to be I was a vocal performer, majored in vocal performance, and then thought, I'll do this education thing. And
so let's pause real quick. Let's just do the rest of this. Let's do the rest of this interview Hamilton style. Can you just sing to us?
Absolutely.
Maybe we shouldn't do that, because then I'll have to sing back to you, and that's not going to happen. So, all right, sorry. Keep going though.
Okay.
Vocal performance from Vermont. Yes.
Yeah. And I kind of threw caution to the wind when I graduated from Ithaca College with my bachelor's and said, I want to be an opera singer, but I also love teaching. So I applied to graduate school and I applied for teaching jobs and said, whatever offer I get first, that's meant to be. That's going to be my next thing. So got a call for a job in Waterbury, Vermont, home of Ben & Jerry's ice cream, and accepted it, elementary school music. And that afternoon I was accepted to Boston University for opera performance. And I said, well, I already took the teaching gig, so here I go. Taught for a year in Vermont and then moved to Virginia, and have been in Virginia in the Shenandoah Valley. I've been in 2 different counties. Started as an elementary music teacher, then I taught choral music at the middle school and high school, went back to elementary, was an AP for 2 years in Harrisonburg City, which is very different than the rural community I'm in now. And then came back to Shenandoah County to do another stint as an AP, and now I've been a principal. This will be my 9th year, 8 years in one school, and they just moved me to a new school. So I start on Thursday at my new elementary school.
All right, I'm going to stick on this opera thing real quick, and then we're going to start talking job transitions.
Yes.
You don't meet a whole lot of aspirational opera singers these days. So I got to go back. Where did you get this desire to sing opera? It's one thing to realize you have an amazing voice and that you've got musical talent, but it's a whole nother thing to say, I'm not going to move to LA or Nashville. I'm going to sing opera.
Yeah.
So where does that passion come from?
So I had a choir teacher in high school who took a couple of, well, we went to Carnegie Hall and we performed there. And while we were in New York City, I went to see a couple operas. And I was like, oh my gosh, people sometimes laugh at musicals because it's that whole idea of all of a sudden you burst into song. And of course, with opera, a lot of times it's in a different language and they're singing the whole time. But it just was so, it was amazing to me that you can understand a story without knowing anything of what they're saying, through the way the music flows and through the way the music sounds. So it just kind of became a passion of mine.
And yet I don't want to say threw it away, but you put it on pause. You took a different turn to teach, which teaching in public schools in America, much different than singing opera in Carnegie. So you said you were kind of at this fork in the road and said, whichever opportunity I get first is where I'm going to go. Some might listen to that and say, wow, you are just a woman of conviction and you did not want to disappoint somebody. You didn't want to take a job and then pivot. You're so focused and kind and courteous and respectful. Other people might say you just had no clue what to do with your life and you are a gambler and you played a game of chance and look where that got you. You could have been living in New York City or over in Europe somewhere singing opera, but now you're in the Shenandoah Valley as a principal. Mm-hmm. Are you happy with the decision you made in that fork in the road moment?
Absolutely. So while I am very competitive at board games and sports, I am not cutthroat enough for what it takes to be a performer. And I love music. I love singing. I'm very passionate about it, but I wouldn't poison someone in order to get the gig. And I think sometimes that it almost comes to that, you gotta get them sick so that you'll get that part. And so I don't look back and think it wasn't meant to be this way, because it's been, every experience I've had has been amazing. And it has made me who I am today. So I've been blessed.
And who you are today is this amazing leader, leading schools, leading little kids and leading the adults that mentor them and groom them and teach them to change destinies and to see a world that they might not have known existed. So describe to people who have never been to the Shenandoah Valley of Virginia what it's like there. Now, I know we joked a little while ago, probably not anymore, but it was covered with cicadas. They were everywhere.
Yes.
It's beautiful in October and November. But other than that, what else is in the Shenandoah Valley, and where is the Shenandoah Valley?
So we are, the Shenandoah Valley is on the western side of Virginia. And if you ever travel 81, Interstate 81, it runs straight down through the valley. And we're between two mountain ranges. And so we kind of have this strange lack of snow a lot of times because we fall into what they now call the pocket. But we have 4 seasons, which is wonderful. And yet it is unbearably hot and humid in the summer. Fall and spring are gorgeous. Having grown up in Vermont, I miss the snow, but I still have my 4 seasons, so I'm happy. The cicadas are gone, by the way, all dead. You find some cicada heads here and there that the birds, they just eat the body and they leave the head, which is just lovely. But it's absolutely beautiful. And I live in a county that it's a long and skinny county right along Interstate 81. So we have a lot of tourism that people come through. We're right near the Shenandoah National Park. We have a beautiful river, the Shenandoah River, that the 7 bends here in the county. It is a beautiful, picturesque, lovely place to visit. It really is.
Now you're selling it as though it's paradise. I mean, it sounds absolutely incredible. And it sounds like a place people would go on vacations. They would get the cabin and just hang out off the grid for a little bit. But you live there. It is
Mhm.
home now. It has been home for a couple of decades now. Do you consider it to be home, or is it the place that you're passing through?
It's definitely home. I moved here 27 years ago, 26 years ago, and I ended up, well, we have a common friend, Abby French, who introduced me to my now husband. It was a blind date. And
Okay,
I
hold
was,
on. I had no idea that she was matchmaker
yes,
extraordinaire here.
yep, sure
Wow.
is.
Okay.
And it worked. We're still together. It'll be 21 years.
That's awesome.
But no, so I had moved here, took a job, and she was one of the first people I met. We taught together at North Fork Middle School, and of course, met him. He was born and raised here, and so his parents gave us some land. We built a house, and this is definitely home now, especially since my parents have relocated here from Vermont and my sister has relocated. So my entire immediate family is here in Shenandoah County.
So home is where you're surrounded by people that you love. There's where you're surrounded by a community. So I'm glad you gave that answer you gave, because I had a follow-up question. If you would have answered differently, I would have been pivoting really quickly. You've had a home for the last few years, metaphorically, in your school, where you have surrounded yourself with people that I know that you love, you would fight for, you care for, you stand beside, you weather the storms. You went through a pandemic with these people. You grew the school to something epic and amazing. And now you're shifting. You mentioned that in just a few days, you're going to a new home.
Yeah.
I know that brings with it mixed feelings, that there's this sadness, this longing, confusion, but yet eagerness and excitement to get something started. So when you're moving into this new place, haven't necessarily started there yet, but yet you still kind of have. What are some of the first steps in establishing a new home and a new family and finding this new community to support and love?
Well, I have to, full disclosure, I spent 8 years in this school as a teacher previously and 3 years as an AP. So that was the last place I was prior to going to Sandy Hook, where I was the principal for the last 8 years. So in going back, there's that fear of change and that apprehension of, am I the right person for this job? But there also is this comfort in knowing so many of the people and knowing the community. And so that's very helpful. But I would say everything, well, I think everything in life should be about relationships. And I think in education, we have learned that even more, I think, through this whole COVID pandemic, understanding one another, knowing one another on a level that's deeper than a professional level in order to be there and support one another through this really trying time. So I've met quite a few times and done some socializing with my APs because I know they have apprehension. They know me just because we're in the same county, but I want them to know me as a person, not just as a leader. I think that's really important. And then I'm one of those people, I think, super old school. I love a handwritten card or note. So I spent the last week writing all 150 of my employees, my staff, a note, a personal note, just saying, I look forward to working with you and I'm really excited and I hope you come back rejuvenated and ready for awesome things in 21, 22. So
Okay.
that's how I started.
Personally, I love that. You know, the U.S. Postal Service doesn't get nearly as much work these days. So you are helping the mailman, mail ladies go out there and find purpose in what they do again. And there's going to be a nice little surprise waiting for people when they open up their mailbox and find this handwritten note. But I also imagine that there are other people that are listening, maybe some teachers who would say, I don't want that. Or some administrators saying, how in the world do you have time to do that? Obviously, you're giving up some other things that are way more important to sit down and write 150 handwritten notes. So explain to me, why is that the priority? When you're talking about going into a new school, you should be diving into like data folders and reading all the annual reports and school improvement plans and strategic visioning, but you're sitting down and writing 150 handwritten notes first. Why?
People first. I think that's just kind of my thing. In everything I do, I think people, in everything we do, I think people need to come first, because I can know the data, I can know the school improvement plan, I can know all of that. But if I don't get to know my people and allow them to know me on a personal level, then I don't believe I can be as successful as I can if I've connected with people. And you said, well, maybe they don't want, maybe that's not meaningful to them, getting a handwritten note. But I think whether you like a handwritten note or not, you've recognized that I've spent some time to invest in you in writing that note. And I will say, in my early years as a principal, I always tried to leave little notes and tidbits in people's mailboxes. And I was always so shocked when I went back to their room and they would have them all posted like it meant something to them. And so to me, that has reinforced that practice, because sometimes that you just need that little something saying, I value you, I see you, I appreciate you. So that's where that comes from.
Have you ever gone into a teacher's classroom at the end of the year and found your evaluation feedback like glued to a bulletin board or on a sticky note or something like that? Or is it tend to be more the I appreciate yous, the you're an amazing person, the personal stuff more, right?
Absolutely. Yes.
So do you feel like things are sacrificed then when you put relationships at the forefront? Because I'm sure you've heard from other administrators say that there has to be this separation, that you can't be friends with your staff, that there's a separation between personal and professional. I get from you that you feel like you can't be professional unless there is personal, or at least you can't be a successful professional without being personal. But on the flip side, are there things that you then have to sacrifice, or are you just amazing at doing all the things?
Just amazing at doing, no, just kidding. No. So those notes, I don't do that during work time. That's something that I value enough that when we're sitting and mindlessly watching the World Series of baseball, the College World Series, watching UVA or whoever, I'm penning notes. And and so I think it's all where you put your focus, but people want to be seen. And I think in education, because of all we kind of started out with the beginning of the pandemic as like the saviors. It was like, oh my gosh, our kids are they're gonna go there and they're gonna be fed and they're gonna be taken care of. And then it kind of turned, why aren't kids in school? You're all just laying in your bed doing a Zoom meeting that you haven't planned or talked about. And so I think that teachers need to know, and all staff, not just teachers, all staff need to know that you see them as a human. And so when I say relationship, I don't mean like I'm buddies with everyone and we're going to go out for drinks on Friday. But I know you. I know that you have 2 kids, that your mom has been in the hospital because of COVID-related illnesses. I know you on a deeper level than just an employee. And I think people invest more, they feel more valued. And don't we want that for our kids?
I love how when you're describing this, your role as a principal, as a leader, seems like it's really focused on the adults. And I know that you love the kids that you surround yourself with, that you are passing out love and support, and you are the biggest champion and cheerleader for the kids in your school than anybody. But I also get the sense that you recognize that if you want to help change the lives of kids, you've got to change the lives of the teachers, because they impact the kids probably more so than you do. So when you fast forward yourself a year from now, you'll have been in this school for a full calendar year at that time. You'll be doing some reflecting, because I know that's what you do. You're not going to necessarily have to sit down and write 150 introductory notes to everybody again, or maybe you will. I don't know. How will you gauge whether or not this year was a success and what you need to do next summer to build upon it?
Well, and I think that's a great question, because going in, there are all these things that everyone wants me to focus on, as far as student achievement, as far as that whole accountability piece. And I kind of feel blessed that I'm going in now, because we've tested, we had our standards of learning SOL test that we had to do at the end of the year. And our kids did much better than we thought they would, based on the amount of face-to-face time they had with teachers. But I almost feel like we are given a pass to focus on all the other stuff to build kids to where we want them to be, to where they can be the best that they can be, to be prepared as little humans. And so I think that my focus will be first on culture, because without a positive culture and everyone knowing their why and being invested in kids, and that whole idea that all kids can succeed, it just, success looks different for everyone. Like, that's going to be your focus, or you won't ever get the student achievement that you want to see.
So when you say you're focusing on culture, is it more than making sure there's a pretty bulletin board in the hallway and making sure there's a potluck once a month? Like, how is culture built? Is it built one postcard at a time? Is it built one handshake, hug, and interaction at a time? Or is it built through planning huge epic events that bring people together?
Well, it's really hard to do an epic event with 150 people when you live in the small Shenandoah Valley. There aren't a whole lot of venues. So I think it's in your daily interactions. It's in being visible, being available, being approachable, not just for your staff, but also for parents and for community members, because the culture bleeds outside of your building. And that's something that, a lot of times we talk about social media and how horrible it can be, because, people can just say kind of whatever they want. There's no accountability. But I have found that social media has been an amazing outlet into our community, so that they understand what we're trying to do and see that we're more than trying to get kids to pass their SOLs. We're more than reading and writing. We want to help develop little people into awesome people and to be the best they can at whatever they do. And so I think culture is every moment, every day. It's not specific events.
So will you be able to take what you did at the school you're leaving, rewind 6, 7, 8 years ago when you were first beginning and unpacking there? Will you be able to replicate that at the school you're going to? Is that your goal? Pull out the plan?
Well, it's funny because I've thought, wow, okay, so this was our theme this year, and but like in my mind, okay, it's kind of like a dress pattern, okay? So maybe I made this really awesome dress.
You're totally speaking my language right now, just so you know. This is an analogy I can relate with so much.
I was a 4-H'er and I learned how to sew.
You're fine, go ahead.
I made myself a dress out of this pattern. And then 8 years later, I pulled that pattern back out. But guess what? I've gained 15 pounds. So that same pattern I can't use it.
Seriously, now I am totally relating with this story right now. Now you got me. Yeah, I got you.
15 COVID pounds. No.
There you go.
And so I feel like I don't have a plan, because I want it to be organic, and I need to go in as me and just get a feel for what they need. And so, I could say, well, our theme is going to be this, and we're going to do this on this day, and we're going to do this but I feel like that's almost a farce in a way, because then it's me presupposing and predetermining what they need. Instead, I want to learn from them and figure it out, and have them be a part of that figuring it out. If that makes sense.
It makes total sense. Do you think that approach causes others to have anxiety, or to feel like there is no plan or direction or do you think it gives them peace and relief, realizing, okay, she truly does want to seek first to understand?
I think there probably could be people on both ends of that spectrum. I know in talking with my the APs on my administrative team, they like that I'm not coming in with this grand scheme and plan and everything. And there were plans for like book studies and things like that. And the previous principal thought I would just do those things. And I said, no, thank you, because, I don't know how invested everyone was in that. And is that really what we need? And I just want to really, I don't want to go in triaging something if I don't know what needs to be, I need to take a temperature first. So.
I love that. I love that. And when we talked last, 2 weeks ago, I think maybe it was 3 weeks ago, you still weren't fully staffed. As we're recording this, I'll just tell people full transparency. It is late June. You're probably listening to this July, August, September. Who knows when you're listening to this? Are you fully staffed at this point for next school year?
Almost.
Okay.
Yeah, so we, and of course at Sandy Hook, where I am currently, we have an issue in our entire county. Our counselors, there was like a mass exodus. People moved to different states, like because of husbands' jobs or things like that, or they moved to a high school to get a different experience. And so I think we've had 2 applications for, I think what are 9 school counselor positions. And of course, we've received a couple extra positions because of the standards of quality. They have upped or reduced the counselor to student ratio, so which is amazing. But other than that, teacher-wise, we have filled all but 2 positions. Both of those are special ed, and so we're a little worried, but we haven't given up. And we're looking at getting creative too. We have a paraprofessional in the preschool program who actually got her degree in early childhood education, and then became a mom, and now is a paraprofessional, and she would be amazing. So how can we support her in going back to school, getting those, how much is it going to take? She's interested. So what support can we give her to make her be successful in that area?
So let's talk about that, because in a second, I'm going to ask you to give some advice to other administrators that are transitioning and embracing a new family, or that are stepping into this position for the first time. But this is a year where there are a lot of openings in a lot of places, not just where you are, which is going to make it even more difficult to attract people to the rural communities, to the places where they might have to pack up and leave and move to get to, because there are so many openings in the college towns or in people's hometowns. Getting transplants to move in is even more difficult. And I feel like that's kind of where you are right now, is you're having to recruit from afar to get people to come move in. So you're going to get new people moving into a strange land. How do you get them acclimated, up to speed? How do you ensure their success and make sure that they are comfortable gaining feedback, learning, growing, and becoming part of this family that you're trying to grow as well?
Right. Well, I think so much of it is, well, when you interview folks, like when I think about my 8 years as a principal, what I look for has changed and has really morphed. Because I think when I was first out of the, I was first an AP principal, I would look for, okay, who has instructional knowledge? And, what would their lesson plan look like? And all of that. Well, now I focus way more on their personality. Are they coachable? Are they collaborative? And so in my mind, these people coming in, if you feel that in them, and it's like that je ne sais quoi in an interview, like you have a feeling that they're the right fit. Everything else will fall into place. And I think too, when you have new teachers, you don't just give them the mentor. Their mentor is not just the most veteran teacher. It's someone that you feel they can relate to and build a relationship with. Because this teaching thing is hard. And it's not just about where to find the tape. and where the data sheet is. I mean, it's a lot.
Yeah, I love that vision for support and success that you just described. Especially the idea of finding the right person and knowing that the professional characteristics can be grown. They can learn those can be nurtured if they have the right spirit, the right heart, the right demeanor to
You gotta
fit
love
in.
kids too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm reminded to a time 6-7 years ago when I was working with some other principals who had the mindset then that they did not have the time to support their new teachers. Their mindset was if the new teachers didn't work out, they had tremendous flexibility to let them go and go find new. And I'm thinking about those administrators now who are probably looking at buildings that have been decimated with staff, that they are now having to figure out how to grow, how to support, how to nurture staff in one of the most critical times in education that we've had in our lifetimes. I'm so grateful that you are able to say, no, I'm focusing on people first. When you talk about relationships, it's people first. When you're hiring, you're focused on people first. When you're looking at kids, you're focused on them as people first, because that's what education is all about. It's about making people into better people. So kudos to you and compliments to you. Right. You've got it. You've got it. So now talk to those other administrators out there, those administrators that are maybe moving buildings by choice or not, or those administrators that are stepping into their first leadership position, who are hearing what you're saying. They're saying, okay, it makes me nervous to focus on relationships because the people in the fancy suits that work downtown, they care about the numbers and the spreadsheets and the data points. And I know that that's how I'm being judged. They're going to come into my building a couple times this year with clipboards in hand, looking for whatever their expectations are, whatever their standards of excellence are. And you're telling me I'm supposed to focus on people and not relationships. Convince me, Robin, that that is what I need to be doing this year.
Okay, here goes. So I think whether you're new to administration or you're going into a new building, I like to think about what I respond to. I always think so much about customer service. You know, I worked in restaurants through high school and through college, and I was a really good waitress. And it is because I paid attention. They were only there for half an hour, 45 minutes, but I got to know them as well as I could and just kind of respond to their needs. I think as an administrator, that is even more important now, especially coming off of this past year where I think we all have a little bit of trauma from all of the unknowns and the fear. And, you know, are we going to get sick? Are kids going to get sick? Are we going to be okay? Are kids going to learn anything? All of this stuff. And so to come in and hit the ground running with a data only focus, I think that would hurt your ability to be successful, because people need to just feel seen and feel valued. And you work, well, I work harder when I know what I do is appreciated and valued. And I don't mean people have to say thank you every day. I don't need a note. A note's really nice, but I don't need a note. But you can feel when someone appreciates you, when they value you, when they respect you. That is, I think, what it's going to take to get people to where we need them to be as teachers and where we need students to be as learners. And so I just do it, people first.
I am sold. I am sold. And I'll actually use some data to support what you just said. You know, the data is clear that collective teacher efficacy leads to student success, which means you have to have teachers that stick around and buy in to collectively grow, to talk, to have the critical conversations, to buy into what you're selling. If you're constantly recycling and restarting and having to jump on with the new initiatives every single year and train the new people every single year, because every year you're just focused on what's current, what's hot, what the latest data points have said, you're never going to get there. You're constantly going to be on this treadmill, the hamster wheel. You're not going to grow. It's almost like, they talk about compound interest with your income and your investments. We see the same thing in schools. There's compound interest that it takes a few years to really start the interest train growing.
Right.
But once you get to year 3, 4, 5, 8, all of those years of that collective thought and the collective feedback and the collective growth take root. And then you start seeing those exponential gains. So stay true to it. Build those relationships so that your school can grow. Awesome.
Well, and I would say, Dave, like on another level, with like, we want teachers to have self-efficacy too. And something that I've really been trying to learn more about this summer is how to personalize PD. Because, yes, we can say we have a menu and you get to choose from these 4 things, but are we really personalizing? And so thinking about, when we were in the mastermind that one night, I can't remember who it was, someone was talking about how they have like the university, and it's online, and their teachers and staff can go in and do PD and choose PD. To me, that's such an amazing model, because as teachers grow in their belief that they are effective, they become more confident in contributing to that team and bringing more to the table, especially as new teachers, which then grows that collective efficacy, which just, the sky's the limit then.
Yeah, and I'm going to give a shout out to that person. So our mastermind is a group of administrators from around the country. We get together every Tuesday and we just hang out and talk shop and figure out how to grow each other. Completely free.
Awesome.
Sign up if anybody wants to sign up. Neither here nor there. But I believe it was Ray Porton from just outside of Chicago.
It was Ray. Yes, it was Ray.
Who was describing that. So Ray, if you're listening, listen to this. You're making an impact in the Shenandoah Valley of Virginia and now around the country and the world. So that's awesome. So Robin, we've talked a lot here. We've talked about Ben & Jerry's ice cream. We've talked about moving and what makes something home. We've talked about building and growing a school, sustainability, personalized PD. We've talked about a ton here. I want you to imagine now, though, that you are standing on stage and everybody has been listening to this speech of yours, and you've had the microphone in your hand now for 35, 40 minutes, and people are watching the clock tick down, and they know that your speech is just about done, and you're just about to walk off the stage and drop the mic and let it rattle, and then everybody's going to have this thunderous applause screaming encore, encore, and you come out and lay out a Vigaro or whatever. I don't know how opera singers do it on an encore, but you're about to drop the mic and walk off the stage and change people's lives. As you think back through the things that we've talked about so far, is there something that you want to highlight as this mic drop moment, this thing that you really want people to focus in on? Or did we miss something that hasn't been brought out yet that you really want to leave people with?
I would say it's kind of related, but it's a little bit of a segue. In thinking about relationships and in working with the staff, my mantra over the last, really since March of 2020, so the COVID year and a half, has been clear is kind. Because I think we've talked about this in Mastermind too, being able to have those hard conversations, but coming at it in a kind and clear way, because what we all want is what's best for kids. And so I feel like if your teachers know, your staff knows that you have invested in them as people, those conversations are less difficult because they know your heart. They know that you are putting kids first, and it's not 100%, but they're more likely to receive and hear and be able to act upon the feedback they get. And without that, like, we're stuck.
Yeah, that's so good. Clear is kind. Clear is kind. Clear expectations, clear standards, clear feedback, clear support. Clear is kind. Well said. Well said. The crowd is going wild right now. They're screaming your name in Italian and in French and all the languages. It doesn't matter.
Throwing roses.
They are throwing roses at you. Absolutely. Absolutely. Robin, you are incredible. I appreciate you taking time out of your busy life as you're going through so many changes right now to hang out with me and connect and tell your story. If there are listeners right now that are wanting to connect with you and continue to follow your journey, how can they connect with you?
All right, so I just changed my Twitter handle because I was Principal SHES, and I'm not that anymore as of this coming Thursday. So at Principal WWR, because I will be at WW Robinson Elementary School.
Got
And
it.
I love Twitter. It has been a life changer for me. I owe that to Abby French. Got to shout her out again. She got me started. But would love for people to join my PLN because I'm learning so much from all of you out there.
That's awesome. So giving shout outs left and right here. We got Ray Porton and Abby French, all kinds of love just being shared with these people that are giving you awesome ideas. And I'm sure on future episodes, people are going to be saying that Robin Shrum, she really made me think and she grew me and she inspired me. So keep doing what you're doing. You are absolutely incredible. And I am so happy to be able to call you officially friend now. We've made it clear for the world. Robin, you are incredible. Again, I appreciate you so much. And I know the people listening do as well. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for hanging out today.
Thank you. Thanks, Dave. I appreciate it, friend.